to order. Pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. So we have a motion and a second. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Streetcar system report, Mr. Allen.
Good afternoon. In June of 2019, we had two incidents. The first one was on the 16th when smoke was reported coming out of the underside of one of the streetcars. The fire department was called. When they arrived, there was no fire on the car. It was caused by an inverter that had gotten wet in heavy storms that day. We did evacuate the car, though, in front of the barn. There were no injuries. And then on the 29th, car 429 was involved in a grade crossing accident at 4th Avenue over here when the driver did not yield to the streetcar. There were no injuries, and the driver of the car was cited. These two incidences were responsible for a little under half of the 75.5 missed trips we had in June. The rest were caused by a shortage of operators and a TECO power outage at one of our substations. That being said, our on-time performance for June was 99.62 with 15 late departures. For June, we did not do any extra service. There were no events at the Amalie during the month, but our ridership was still strong, 54,090 for the month compared to 27,415 the year before. And of those, in June, 108 of those were wheelchair boardings. Currently, our staff, we have 2 student motormen that will graduate this Friday. We have 3 positions we're trying to fill by interviewing this week with the hope that they will start class August 5th. And initially in my report, I had said that I had all my maintenance positions open. The person that I'd hired as a cleaner did not come to work for us, so I will be going to rehire for that position. And then infrastructure, the cross tie replacement, we're still working with our contractor, but we're anticipating starting to do some work in September. And then finally, the Bernie car 163, the roof is completed. Tomorrow we will have the last bit of lumber for the roof walk, and that's the last piece to go on the car. Other than that, the car's finished, and if anybody would like to see it, I'll gladly show it to you after the meeting.
That's great. Any questions? Yes.
One question. The interior of the roof on one of the cars has some damage?
It has leak damage, yes.
Okay.
And
I saw it on social media, so I
yes,
interestingly enough.
We have replacement panels. It's just a matter of getting it into the shop to get that done. So
Okay, thanks.
Hey, you sound like a busy man.
it's been a heck of a month.
Thank you very much. Legal and legislative report.
Good
Mr. Matthews.
afternoon, President English. I have nothing to report, but I can speak on the action item at the appropriate time, but I believe Ms. Berry and Mr. Allen from HART will be presenting on the action item.
Okay, before we get to that, any new information about that lawsuit and the proposed settlement?
Nothing has arisen since we last communicated. There was a proposal for settlement filed in that case for approximately, I think, $35,000 or $36,000. It's been forwarded to the carrier, and the carrier, I believe, is inclined to reject it at this time, but nothing has been filed in response, or no formal response has been made to opposing counsel.
Okay, any other questions, Dave? Okay, good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, action item, resolution R 2019-0703 regarding the Publix supermarket and streetcar agreement.
Good afternoon. Sylvia Berrien, Deputy Attorney for HART, and
Tyler Rowland, Manager of Creative Services and Marketing.
we just have some additional information. We'd like to do a presentation for the board.
Yeah, Yeah, so while they're setting up, as you all may recall, we had brought this item to the board at the last board meeting, and staff agreed to gather more information and provide more detail about the prospective agreement between Publix, HART, City of Tampa, and THS regarding branding.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
Regarding
Take it
the,
away.
yes, thank you. Regarding the agreement, it was signed by Publix on June 6th of 2019. HART, City of Tampa, and THS must approve the agreement. The attorneys reached the agreement on the language and recommended that. It's a 1-year sponsorship of the streetcar, a stop at the Port of Tampa, bay stop, which is stop number 5. And the address is 949 Channelside Drive. The payment from Publix will be $30,000. It will include branding, station banners, marketing, and website. With regards to the branding and signage installation at a cost to THS, graphic option, there are 2 options. There's graphic option 1 and there's graphic option 2. Graphic option 1 is a cost of $15,900. Includes signage, cling, and a ceiling wrap. Graphic option 2 is a cost of $13,000. It includes signage, a cling, but it does not include the ceiling wrap. The ceiling wrap is a significant additional cost. This is the station design of the option number 1. And that's the way that it would look with the wraps for this particular design. With regards to the difference is the ceiling under the Publix sign would be painted, would be wrapped in a green, and that's the additional cost with regards to this particular graphic option design. The option 2 station design is everything that you saw in graphic option 1 with the exception of the ceiling being wrapped or painted. This is just a closer view of that. The cost of that is $13,000. The revenue for option 2 would be revenue to THS would be $17,000. And like I said, the difference in the cost between the 2 with the ceiling being wrapped is $2,900. These are the final cost options. Again, the cost is $15,900 for option 1 with a revenue of $14,100 to THS. Graphic option 2 is a cost of $13,000 with revenue to THS of $17,000, excuse me. Option 2 allows THS to preserve a streetcar branding and is consistent with public sentiment and historic look of the streetcar system. And it's a cost savings of $2,900. Option 2 again is for the 1-year term, Publix will contribute to $30,000, and the revenue to THS again is $17,000. There's no ceiling wrap in this particular option. THS board would reserve the right to approve the use of the streetcar logo and Publix marketing materials and on their website. And renewal will be based upon any updated fees, conditions spelled out in the sponsorship program going forward. Next steps, ongoing coordination with Publix, installation scheduling, marketing materials review, and then staff would work with THS Marketing Committee to develop a new sponsorship program advantageous to THS and present that to the THS board in the fall of 2019.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also requested at the last board meeting was some historic data on some of the previous sponsorship agreements that this entity has exercised in the past. I did find a couple of examples that do provide some context around this. First of which is the Tampa and Ybor City Street Railway Society. It was the sponsorship of station number 3. which was named the Streetcar Society Station. That agreement was signed back in 2002 for the amount of $75,000 with the termination date of 2032. So that equals approximately, in base year dollars, $2,500 per year. So, you know, you're comparing that one to these cases where we are proposing a 1 year, you know, profit to
Sure.
THS of $17,000. So it's substantially more. There's a second one called the Tampa Wholesale Furniture. It's a sponsorship of station number 4. That agreement was also signed in 2002 for $100,000, also with the termination date of 2032, which averages about $3,300 per year. So again, substantially more with this 1 year public sponsorship program. Also, of course, as you all are very familiar, there were 2 sponsorships signed back in 2002 that went on for in perpetuity. One of those was with Bright House for $250,000. The other one was with Tico for $1 million, but those go on and really have no end. So just thought I would provide some additional context around some of the other proposals. Mr. Rowland, did you have anything
Yeah, and
else?
also SunTrust
Oh,
also
I forgot
has the
SunTrust.
streetcar, naming rights on one of the streetcars, so their logo's in perpetuity for $250,000.
Mr. Chairman, that is very helpful because when I first saw the numbers on this, I thought they seemed low, but then when we started to recall the prior
Right.
sponsorship agreements, this actually is, you know, compares very favorably
Sure.
with that.
Any other?
Especially,
Yeah, any other comments?
I just wanted to check I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to check, do we have the right to approve signage and any use of our logo? I understood that Publix had a right to use our logo, but I want to make sure we have the prior right of approval of any use of our logo, as well as the right for us to approve signage.
We're going to reserve that right. It's not in the agreement, but that's going to be one of the conditions that we be able to review that and any time that they use it on their website as well.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see it in the agreement, but I think that's very important that HART has policies. I think THS, I don't know if they have signage policies and so forth, but we need to make sure somebody can't just run off and
Sure, good idea.
use our logo inappropriately or put a sign at a station inappropriately. So we need to make sure that's in place.
Good. Robert?
To approve option 2.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
option 2 and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
I'd
Good.
just like to mention
Yeah.
that, you know, Publix just announced they're putting a Greenwise on Water Street.
Right.
So it would seem, given that we now have a relationship with Publix, we could engage in some kind of conversation about doing another sponsorship somewhere in the Channel Side area.
The developer has actually already reached out and inquired about additional opportunity. I did alert them that we were going to be working on a more comprehensive strategic sponsorship strategy for this group to consider. So they're really on standby at this point, but very, very interested in more sponsorship
Good news.
opportunities. So
Very good, yeah, and that's a good idea for us to get that policy in place.
Sure.
I would like to commend you on taking the initiative to get this done. When you start looking at the strategic plan going forward, it might make sense to maybe make it a 3-year program with an option to terminate early and also to pass the signage expenses off to the leaseholder, if that pans out.
Yeah, and
Okay.
as long as we're making suggestions on the future, I looked through the agreement and I think the indemnification clause needs to be mutual. We are indemnifying the sponsor. I think the sponsor, to the extent that they are negligent, ought to be indemnifying the city and THS and HART for any negligent activity on their parts. It's just a
Sounds-
mutual thing.
No,
I'm
it sounds
not looking
reasonable.
for a
Yeah.
one-sided deal, but.
You guys, you all good? Okay.
Yeah.
Hearing no
you.
further discussion, all in favor? Oh, did
We
we
did
already do
that.
that? Okay, good. So the marketing committee, you mentioned, you're the chair of the marketing committee, but I don't even know who else is on it. Rick is gone. So why don't I put myself and Mechanic on it, and we're the marketing committee.
There you go.
Okay, good. Chair's report, I really don't have one. The CEO report, Mr. Limmer.
All right, I can certainly make up for that. I do have a somewhat lengthy CEO report, but I'll try and be brief. There's a lot going on. First of all, HART recently launched what's called a Ride with Respect campaign. Let's see, I do have a couple of visuals.
I'll click here.
Thank you. Yeah, HART recently launched what's called the Ride with Respect campaign on July 1st. As you all know, every day more than 300 employees and 34,000 customers interact and share space on HART buses, vans, and of course the Tico Streetcar. Being considerate of one another contributes vastly to the well-being of both the customers as well as the operators. The awareness campaign is really to align HART's professional image of our frontline staff, the safety and security goal, and of course pass along as a public service this key safety message. So you might have seen this campaign launched on social media, but again, the idea here is to really enhance the relationship between streetcar operator and customer. Moving on, Boom by the Bay, the 4th of July partnership with the city. HART did support the Tampa's newest large community event known as Boom by the Bay and provided greater access to this 4th of July celebration featuring family-friendly activities, live entertainment, and 4 firework location along 2.5 miles of Tampa's waterfront. Total ridership for the day was nearly 26,000. Bus service provided almost 18,000 trips, about an 8% increase compared to the same date last year. While the streetcar, happy to report, experienced 150% ridership growth, topping out at 7,800 riders. So looking forward to enhancing that partnership and making a long-term community activity for Tampa. Moving on to the streetcar extension project, the first meeting for the city and HART, what we're calling our policy committee. So it's really executive leadership from the city of Tampa as well as HART to talk about the streetcar project, was held in June. The meeting was really to begin to determine the overall governance strategy, the financial strategy, as well as the implementation schedule for not only the modernization of the streetcar line as it stands today, but also the extension of the streetcar further north. The group specifically reviewed how the current system was structured and what information was going to be required to compete for federal funding. And all of those activities are actually due by the end of August, so we'll likely have an update for this entity at the next board meeting, if not shortly thereafter. There's going to be further conversations once the project team updates the overall cost estimate. So at that time, we'll have a very good idea of what the cost of the modernization is, as well as the expansion. And then next up, the COMTO National Conference was actually held. It concluded yesterday. COMTO stands for Council of Minority Transportation Officials. It's a national conference. They actually had nearly 900 transportation leaders from throughout the United States here in Tampa at the Marriott Waterside Riverfront. So the streetcar was really front and center during all of those conference activities. The streetcar system was really busy providing transportation for attendees, but we also did a formalized technical tour on Sunday, July 14th, kind of showing off the Tico streetcar line to these transportation leaders from throughout the country. And then lastly, you do have at your seats the 100-day update, printed copies of my 100-day report that you should have received electronically on July 3rd. It's really focused around HART building a culture of excellence and really positioning HART as a world-class, best-in-class transit agency. It's really focused on 4 core success outcomes that I will likely use as a common theme throughout the next year. It's really focused on customers, financial performance, employee success, as well as value in the community. So if you have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me. With that, that concludes my remarks. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
One question.
Mhm.
What is the ridership during the AM peak hour, the AM hours that we've expanded the streetcar? I haven't heard a breakout of that number recently.
And whether it's climbing.
Okay. I'd propose that that staff will prepare a report showing the delta increases in the times to where we increase service. So I'll certainly get that data and
Yeah, I'd just like to
information
see
out to
how
you.
we're doing, if it's increasing. Because, it's something that didn't exist before, so
Sure.
it's going to be a challenge to make sure people are aware of the service and are taking advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Any other questions there? Vector Media Sales Activity, I don't see Lori Gage. Is there any activity, Mr. Marketing Manager? Anything to report?
I'm sorry?
The Vector.
Yeah, Lori apologized, she was not able to make it. She actually emailed right before the meeting, that she's not going to be able to be here today.
Okay.
I don't have that report.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
I do have a question about that. Last month, Lori alluded to that we would potentially changing the process with Vector, and that they would be submitting a package to expand their services. Is there anything to report on that?
No, she hasn't expanded on any of that yet,
Okay.
but I can certainly follow up with her.
Yeah, we'll certainly follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, marketing report, financial statements, any questions about any of those things? Hearing none, old business, new business. I think this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.